Hello everyone, welcome to Madha's Bridge. We train and learn. We shall together learn object-oriented programming fundamentals. Let's get started. In today's agenda, we will go through concept of objects and classes. Let's get into details. OOPS concepts. In OOPS, we have objects, classes, data abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, dynamic binding, message passing. In today's session, we will learn objects and classes, the difference between objects and classes. As we know, object-oriented programming is a programming paradigm or pattern of programming based on concept of objects, a collaborative objects. A solution to a programming problem is modeled as a collection of collaborative objects. An object-oriented program consists of many well-encapsulated objects and interacting with each other by sending messages. For instance, here we have three objects, object 1, object 2 and object 3 within a program. These objects have a data and a functions, a partitioned memory area for each within the object. These objects are communicating to each other by sending a messages through the functions. OOPS provides a way of modularizing programs by creating a partitioned memory area for both data and functions that can be used as a template for creating copies of such modules on demand. What is meant by object? An object is an instance of class, a specific occurrence of a class, also known as a runtime entity of the world. Class is logical construct while object has a physical entity. We have the class like a template and instances of class is known as an objects. We have three instances of same class called as three objects. Can you take a look at this example? Fruit of type class. What we understood from the class concept is class is a template. It's something like a blueprint. With help of class, we can create instances of the class called as an objects, isn't it? If you look at this diagram, we have a banana, apple, mango. These are of class type fruit. We are also saying when we create an instance of the class, that's what we name them as an object. Likewise, we have three instances we created out of class called fruit and name them as a banana, apple, mango. So the nutshell, instance of a class is called an object. You can name the object. Let's look at this example. Here we have a car called class, which is a template, a logical construct of a class. This is not a physical entity. Keep remember. The instance of the class called an object, which is physical reality. That's why we name them as Kia, Ford, Toyota, for example. These are physical entities in reality. These are called as an objects, which are instance of class called car. So You understand the difference between the class and object? Look at little more details. Class has properties and methods. Properties something like a make, model, color, price of the car are called properties of the class. We also know them as data or attributes. We can also list a couple of methods like start, stop, forward, reverse. Alright. Summary of object. Object is a real world entity in object oriented programming. An object is an instance of a class. That means a specific occurrence of a class, also known as a runtime entity of the world. Class is a logical construct, whereas object has a physical reality. Object is an entity that has a state, meaning, attributes, and behavior are known as methods. When class is defined, no memory is allocated because class is nothing but a blueprint or a template. When it is instantiated, an object is created, a memory is allocated to it. Object can interact with each other object without having to know the details of others' data or code. It is sufficient to know type of message is accepted and the type of response returned. If you look at closely, a class has a data and methods, and then they can communicate to each other through functions by which they exchange messages. Coming to lifetime of an object. Object has a different stages: allocation, initialization, usage, cleanup, deletion. These stages is known as a lifetime of an object, right? Let's look at one by one. Allocation means allocate enough memory to store object data, which is also known as a state of an object. During the initialization, set the initial state of an object, meaning initializing attributes of an object. Coming to usage. Usage means interact with objects through the methods to access and modify object data. Cleanup means make sure that everything is in order before deletion. Deletion means memory is freed, which is also known as object ceased to exist. During allocation stage, we created a memory. So during the deletion phase, we need to free the memory, meaning giving allocated memory back to memory pool of the system, which is very essential in object-oriented programming. Now let's look at a class. Classes are like an object constructors, a logical constructors for creating an object. In other words, it is a blueprint or the details description how the object will be, right? A class is a user-defined data type. It consists of data members and member functions, which can be accessed and used by creating an instance of the class. Characteristics of the class. Class has a name, class name. Basically describes what is it. Attributes, data. How the objects are described. For instance, look at a car class. We have a properties like a make of the car, model of the car, color of the car, price of the car. These are known as an attributes, which helps to describe an object. The another thing is operations. What can the objects do, like a behavior of the class? So for instance, methods for a car class like a start, stop, forward, reverse. In a nutshell, class components means class name, data section, functions and method section. It represents that a set of properties or methods that are common to all objects of one type. It is like a template for an object. Class can have a multiple objects which have a properties and behavior in common to all of them, isn't it? Let me walk through a simple example which demonstrated concept of class and object. Let's look at it closely. This program. We have a class called my class. The class has an attributes, my ID, my name. You can closely look at private, protected, public. 3 keywords, right? This is basically going to help us to define the visibility of an attributes. We also know them as access specifiers. We can talk more from a concept called data hiding encapsulation. Let's park for a minute. Class as a template. No memory is created at this instance. That is going to be takes place during object creation, right? Let's look at in the main program. In the main, we are creating objects of a class, which is also known as creating a instance of a class. We have 2 objects here, object 1 and object 2. This is a time where a memory is allocated to that object. Like object 1 has a memory, object 2 has a memory, isn't it? At this stage, we have not initialized the state of the object, meaning set the values to the attributes of the class. Now let's initialize the value to the each object. My object 1 has now values setting to it in this stage. You see, this is a place where I can see the state of the object, initializing the values to the attribute of that specific object. If you can print them, you will be able to see the values which you assign to that object, isn't it? Similarly, you can also initialize attributes of second object, because the memory allocated for object 1 and object 2 are the different, and then both objects have similar data attributes. So you are initializing the values to the object 2 attributes, set the attributes, and then you can see the values are assigned to the attributes of object 2. You can print them. This is how you would see the output. Are you clear? The class is in a template which can hold a data or the functions. We didn't actually discuss more on functions in this example. We created an instance of the class called an object. That is where we see memories get allocated to objects. Now we are set the values to the attributes of that particular object, which is also known as initializing that object state. and then we access them, we print them. You would wanted to see the values which you initialized are same when you print them, isn't it? This is a good example to understand how class or object works in programming world.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, click on the bell icon, and please leave the comment. Happy learning. Thank you. Stay tuned to the upcoming sessions.